there's a boy on our show who calls his piece of wood plank. What's your piece of wood's name?
Music? I like music that goes like la 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 la.
Now, I've been watching cartoons for a pretty long time now. I've basically watched them my whole life, and one of the biggest things I've been able to witness was the progression of eras that Cartoon Network had gone through. CN City, the Fall era, the Yes era, and the Check It era. A lot of them I remember for their unique art styles and characters that would announce the next batch of upcoming shows on the schedule. Whether these eras were good or bad, they will always remain in my memories for what they were. Cartoons. But my goodness, where was I when the Powerhouse era was a thing? Oh yeah, that's right. I was maybe too young to figure out what I was even watching. But the Powerhouse era is an era that I hear is up there with people's all-time favorites. And at first glance, I must say it's worth checking out. But what exactly is Cartoon Network's Powerhouse era? How did the era get its name? And why do so many people regard this as one of the best eras on the network? Possibly even better than CN City.
That is blasphemous! That is blasphemous!
I'll be going over all those things and more in this video right now, so don't go anywhere. Please, I need the company. The Powerhouse era was launched on March 2nd, 1998 and would be the third official era. Ultimately, the Powerhouse era would succeed the Checkerboard and Starbreak. Okay, cut. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna give you the meat and potatoes of it all. The reason why so many people love this era, the reason they regard this era as a close second to CN City, possibly even better, is because of the programming. It's not because of the awesome cartoony music played throughout the bumper. It's not because of the simplistic but yet complimentary art style in the TV spots. It's because of the programming. It's because of the quality premiere content. Some of the best Cartoon Network shows of all time, you know, the shows you see on t-shirts at retail stores, all were birthed during this era. Just take a look at this all-star roster. The Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Edd and Eddy, Samurai Jack, Grim and Evil, which would turn into the later recognized Billy and Mandy, Evil Con Carne, also a part of Billy and Mandy, Codename Kids Next Door, Star Wars The Clone Wars, Magus XLR, and Courage the Cowardly Dog. And speaking of courage, how y'all like my painting?
What the dog doing?
I like it, Picasso.
In total, 14 original series were produced during this era, compared to the Checkerboard era that only produced 4, I believe. And here's the thing, in my last video regarding Cartoon Network eras, I had talked about how the Checkerboard era aired a lot of acquired shows during its beginning stages, which basically meant none of them were produced by Cartoon Network. They were made by the companies that Cartoon Network acquired the rights of. And this could be seen as a big problem for people that wanted exclusivity. Cartoon Network, I believe, during this era addressed that concern. They put the acquired shows in the passenger seat and went full throttle with their original shows. What a powerhouse move. And while we're on the topic of Powerhouse, how did this era get its name? You'd think because, as I just showed you, the era had a powerhouse of shows. It was stacked. It was packing at least 12. Nope, the era was named after one of the songs of Raymond Scott from his album Reckless Nights in Turkish Twilights. And the name of the song was, you guessed it, Powerhouse. This song would be the musical theme for most of the bumpers, TV spots, and graphical elements seen throughout. I listened to the entire song and it's very cartoony, very jumpy, and it fits like a glove when you see these cartoon characters doing their thing in these vignettes. Before I move any further, I think it'd be disrespectful not to mention the several notable programming blocks that would be introduced during this era. The first was Cartoon Network's Cartoon Theater, which was a movie block that aired on CN from July 1998 to 2007. Very self-explanatory. It aired animated movies on the network. And this is where you get the infamous CN characters all sitting together in the theater. Next was Cartoon Fridays, a weekly programming block in which the network would premiere new episodes of its original series. And don't think for a second that I'm not going to mention the time when Cartoon Network literally hijacked, yes, hijacked Nickelodeon programming and plugged their Cartoon Fridays on screen and dipped. The level of savage that Cartoon Network had, boy, let me tell you.
Who are you people?
And last but certainly not least, the all too well-known Adult Swim, a late night program that was aimed towards a mature audience and basically aired cartoons but for adults. Most certainly wasn't a program for kids, but if you had to sneak to watch some of the shows on there, you're a real one. Moving on to the vignettes and bumpers, you may notice that the artwork used in these bumpers are very, I would say, simple compared to what the checkerboard era had created with their slew of colors and patterns in its bumpers. Instead of having all of these colors and patterns, Powerhouse kept it simple, with the cartoon characters doing their usual thing in front of these blue, red, purple, yellow, and green backgrounds. While people may say, oh, this was Cartoon Network being lazy or unoriginal, I think it's a nice touch because the simple colors really made these characters pop out more. And it's less of an eyesore compared to what the checkerboard era had. Sometimes less is more and simple is sophisticated. One thing you probably didn't know is that the colors used in the Powerhouse bumpers had their different purposes for different times of the day. Yellow was used for weekday mornings, green was used for weekday afternoons, blue was used for weekday evenings, dark blue or black was used for midnights and late night periods, purple was used for action cartoons, hence why you see the Batman vignettes in front of a purple background. Orange was used for Halloween, brown was used for Thanksgiving, and white or light blue was used for Christmas. The vignettes that didn't feature known CN characters were pretty standard. You had the super swole guy flexing and the next batch of shows plastered on his muscles, a magician of sorts hypnotizing you to watch the next show, cartoon objects falling from the sky, and a ton of next bumpers in which the actual next logo is animated into these skits and given cartoony behavior. Like how the piano falls on the next logo, it dies and goes to heaven. Go figure. Now with some of the vignettes, you might have noticed that there are some characters from the shows Cartoon Network acquired from their last era in these vignettes. To be clear, Cartoon Network didn't completely do away with their non-original shows. They still aired Scooby-Doo, The Jetsons, and several others, but original programming started to become more prominent on the network. So much so that the eventual creation of Boomerang would come about. Boomerang would be the programming block that would feature classic cartoons, such as what the checkerboard era had showcased. Now, before I move on with the vignettes for now, I want to point out something I really appreciate about them. Check out this short vignette. Did you catch that? Well, in these vignettes, as the characters are doing their motions, whether it's seen before, during, or after, you can see the Cartoon Network logo pattern incorporated into the atmosphere. You can see the pattern in the piano. You can see it in certain explosions. This arm that looks like Saitama's punches the screen and the logo pieces go flying. Beetlejuice naturally has the logo on his clothing. My curtains downstairs resembles the logo. My favorite one, however, is Cow eating Oreos, and her Oreo covered teeth looks like the logo. I thought that was really clever. Some of the vignettes make it look natural and others make it look forced. But the reason I appreciate this is because it reveals how these cartoon characters are the embodiment of Cartoon Network. They are Cartoon Network. The checkerboard era incorporated its characters into the Cartoon Network logo, but here it's flipped. The logo is incorporated into the characters this time. Heck, the logo itself acts like a cartoon character in certain vignettes, whether that be it walking, jumping, acting like a car and driving down the street, or falling off a building and crashing into multiple clotheslines. I'm sure there's a term for what I just described, but I just love the cartoony-ness of it all, and I feel it deserved some attention. Now, I can rave up and down about how great the Powerhouse era was, but sadly, this era did come with its imperfections. I think a few things that really bumped the era down a few notches is the update that it went under. In 2003, when the Powerhouse era was quote-unquote slightly updated, not only was the original music from the "We'll Be Right Back" and "Back to the Show" bumpers removed, but the green, yellow, and dark blue /back backgrounds were removed as well. Now, who would be the announcers for a lot of the bumper quotes in between commercials? Originally, it was Hartman, Shearer, Welker, and Clark, but they'd be replaced by CN characters. Just to name a few, their replacements were Jeff Bergman, the voice of Bugs Bunny, Christine Cavanaugh, the voice of Dexter, Matt Hill, the voice of Ed, and Jeff Bennett, the voice of Johnny Bravo. Even the Powerpuff Girls related bumpers used Tom Kenny, the show's overall narrator, in the bumpers as well. Now, personally, I don't think that was a bad change necessarily, but I still think it was a change that needed to be noted. Ultimately, the era would be defunct on June 14th, 2004, and the last program to air on it would be Captain Planet. The Powerhouse era would go on to be one of Cartoon Network's longest lasting eras and would be succeeded by CN City. And now we move on to the million-dollar question. Is the Powerhouse era better than CN City? Well, I'll definitely say based on the programming, based on the music, based on the art style, I believe the Powerhouse era is definitely better than the Checkerboard and Starburst era, and possibly future eras that I will cover later on this channel. But it'd be sort of unfair to say this era is better than that one or this one, and not fully go over the pros and cons of each one. And as I just shared, the Powerhouse era had its shortcomings. However, you can't ignore the fact that this era, up until this point, did feature the most original series, most of which are iconic. And this would be the era that would birth Cartoon Network Theater, Cartoon, and Adult Swim. Off of those mentions alone would be why I would top it over the Checkerboard and Starburst era, but that's just my opinion. But with what the era was able to do, I definitely say this era started to put Cartoon Network in the right direction and no longer have to rely on acquired shows. With how well received the Powerhouse era was, it kind of makes me think, well, how much better would CN City be? And that is something we'll have to find out in the next bumper video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below which is your favorite Cartoon Network era. Do you think the Powerhouse era is better than CN City? Let me know down in the comments. Make sure to follow me on TikTok for more content as well. Once again, thank you. God bless you. I'll see you in the next video, and don't hate, motivate.
What the dog doing?
I like it, Picasso.